everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a Urea PAGE gel. The Urea Gel is a denaturing gel, and we use this to analyze our samples from RT-PCR. And so first, you want to focus on combining the reagents to make your gel. And so on the benchtop are a few items that we're going to need. We're going to need this solid 7.5 molar urea. We're also going to need 5x TBE buffer. You also want to have a conical tube of nanopure water. Have a separate conical tube labeled urea to put in all the contents and make the gel. You'll also need this 40% acrylamide solution from the fridge, and make sure that it is a 19:1 solution. You also want to dissolve your urea in this beaker. Make sure that you're using this labeled beaker to dissolve the urea. It's located on the drying rack behind the sink. You also want to have your 10% APS already made. You want to have some 10 ml pipettes, and your pipetter ready to go. So from there, you can go ahead and make your gel. Okay, so first I'm going to start making the gel by dissolving the 7.5 molar urea in 5x TBE and nanopure water. So to start out, just a reminder, we're going to use this beaker, and I'm going to measure out 5 mLs of both the nanopure water and the 5x TBE buffer. Next, the 5 mLs of 5x TBE buffer. You're also going to want a new weigh boat, and you can use this scale to measure out 11.3 grams. So now we're going to go ahead and take this beaker over to the hot plate and just gently heat it. It takes about 15 minutes or so for the urea to fully dissolve. And so while we're waiting for the urea to dissolve, you can go ahead and set up the other components of the gel. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so you also need a few items to make the glass casting chambers. And so first, you're going to need 2 glass plates, one large and one small. You'll want to also get 6 binder clips and a well comb. And you also need these 3 plastic pieces. You're going to need 2 of these that contain the orange sponges, and one just separate plastic piece here. And so what you want to do is make sure that you clean everything but the binder clips. You want to clean it with 70% ethanol, and you also want to lay out some paper towels at your workstation, just because there's going to be a lot of cleaning, and you want to make sure your glass plates are nice and clean before you pour your gel. So we're going to go ahead and clean the glass plates and then assemble the casting chamber. Okay, after you have ethanoled all of your materials to make the casting plates, you can go ahead and assemble them. So I'm going to first take these 3 plastic pieces, and we're going to assemble it on the larger glass plate. And these 2 pieces are on either side. And you just slide the bottom piece through the little openings on the bottom. Then you take your smaller piece and you put it right on top and align it. And so you want to make sure the pieces are aligned and that everything is flush together. Okay, great. So next you're going to take your binder clips, and you want to have 2 clips on either side. Okay. Another thing that we like to do, just to make it easy, is that we use this foam piece and we just set the glass casting plates on top. And that way it's all ready to pour when the gel is finished being prepped. And you also want to have your 12-well comb handy. And make sure too, when you have your casting plate set up on the foam, that you want to have the shorter side with the lip facing up. So that way when you get ready to pour your gel, all you have to do is tilt it a little bit and pour inside the gel. And that'll make your life easier for sure. All right, so we're still waiting for the urea to dissolve, and then after that we can finish making the gel and pour it into the casting plates. Okay, so now as you can see, our urea is fully dissolved in the beaker. So what we can go ahead and do next is add the contents of this beaker into our Urea PAGE conical tube. And we've already added the 40% acrylamide, so we're all set to move forward. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the dissolved urea. Okay. And next, it's about 20 mils, so we're going to go ahead and bring the volume up to 25 using Nano Pure water. Let's bring this closer. Okay. All right, so using our pipette over here. Get 5 mils or so. Bring the volume of urea up to 25. Okay, great. So now the conical tube contains the 40% acrylamide. It contains the dissolved urea solution. And now all we have left to do is go in the fume hood and add the 25 microliters of TEMED, and then we can add our 250 microliters of APS, and the gel will be ready to pour. Okay, so we just added the TEMED. Now we're going to add the APS, and keep in mind that you want to move pretty quickly because this urea gel solidifies very fast. In comparison to an SDS gel, it is definitely a lot faster. It only takes about 30 minutes or so, but you'll definitely see that the leftover contents in the tube after you pour the gel are solid and within 5 minutes. So, all right, everything is added. Just give it a little shake. Make sure it's all combined. And now we're going to go over here and pour the gel. Make sure you have the shorter side facing up. You want to make sure that you're pouring between the glass plates and just tilt it a little bit. Just go ahead, pour it in. Might have to tilt it a little bit more just to see where the level is located at, and add additional urea to the top. Next, you want to go ahead and add the comb, and the comb goes in flat side down, and you just slide it in between the glass plates. It's easier to go in one side at a time, and then you just slide it in and it'll click. And there you have it. You have your gel now in the casting chamber, and like I mentioned, it takes about 30 minutes or so for it to solidify. You do have some left over in your tube, so it's a great way to keep track to make sure that your gel is actually solidifying. And from there, you can go ahead and just wait until the gel is ready to go. And then the next step is the pre-run step. So after we're done waiting for the gel, we're gonna move on to pre-running the gel. All right, so now that your gel has solidified, we're gonna go ahead and remove the comb. So you're just going to gently move it upwards. And next you can remove these bottom binder clips. And you'll also want to remove this last plastic piece. Okay. And you want to keep both of these plastic pieces on. So next we're going to assemble the glass cases with your gel onto this reservoir. All right, now you have your gel and you have this metal plate. Before you get started, you want to heat this metal plate in the oven. Make sure it's nice and warm because it helps keep the gel itself cool and prevents it from overheating. And you can do one of two things. You can place this metal plate on top of the gel when you're doing the pre-run step, or you can wait until you actually add your samples. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can also attach the metal plate for both runs, both the pre-run and the running step. So for purposes of this video, I'm just going to assemble the pre-run gel without the metal plate, and I will show you how that's done here. So you're going to have your reservoir, you have your 4 binder clips, and you're going to place the shorter side facing this reservoir, the chamber on the top, and you'll use the binder clips to clamp it in place. Next, you're going to take this 1x TBE buffer, and on the top chamber, you're going to add enough buffer to reach the bottom of this black plastic piece. So go ahead and pour it in. And you'll notice that the buffer filled the wells. Next, you're also going to add buffer to the bottom chamber. And you don't have to add too much. You just want to add enough that covers the bottom of the gel in the glass plate. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. A little bit more. Okay, so our next step is we're going to use this curved syringe, and we're going to clean out the wells, and then we're going to get rid of any bubbles on the bottom. So you simply just uptake buffer from the top chamber, and through the opening in the back, you're just going to squeeze some buffer into the well and clean the wells. Okay, great. So after that, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of any bubbles. And in order to do this, all you have to do is get underneath the glass plates, and there's a small opening, and you just simply uptake buffer from the bottom chamber. So we're gonna uptake buffer here, and it's a little tricky, it may take some time, but you just want to take on one side of the bubble and you'll just expel buffer until the bubble is gone. And in person, it's a little easier to see, but it just takes a little bit of time. And you want to get right underneath. There is a small opening. So once you've cleaned the wells and gotten rid of all the bubbles at the bottom of the gel using the syringe, you can then attach the cover, which is connected to all of the nodes, so the positive and the negative. And what we want to do is we want to pre-run the gel. And so it just goes over the top like so, and you connect on either side. That's why you want to make sure that when you're attaching the glass casings to this reservoir, that it's even, because you have this top piece that needs to sit flat. So you'll connect it to this electrophoresis instrument here, and you're going to actually set it, because it's not pre-programmed. So you'll go ahead and select the manual option from the screen, and you want it to be on constant power let me just check. So you're going to set it at constant power at 30 watts for 30 minutes. And while it's doing its pre-run step, you also want to consider prepping your samples. And in order to do this, you need to make sure that your samples have the 2X formamide dye already added. You then need to use the 95 degrees Celsius heat block and heat your samples for 10 minutes. You also want to aliquot about 7 microliters of the Liz 500 ladder, and that needs to be heated in the heat block as well for 10 minutes. So you want to time both of these things to where the samples are ready to get loaded when the gel is finished with the pre-run. And so keep that in mind as you are managing your time with this gel, because there's a little bit of multitasking that goes into it. So from there, we're just gonna wait for our gel to finish the pre-run step, and then we can set up to actually run our samples. Okay, so after you have your samples ready to go, they've been preheated on the heat block, you want to put them on ice immediately after. For purposes of this video, I'm just going to show you how to load the gel using some formamide dye. These samples that you're going to load are actually stained blue. However, the ladder that you will be using, it's called the Liz 500 ladder. That ladder is clear, so you just want to be mindful of that. And what you need to do prior to loading your samples is you want to clean the wells one more time using that syringe. And so I'm just going to aliquot a small amount and show you exactly how you would load this gel. So similar to an SDS gel, what you want to do is take your pipette and you're going to put your tip on the back side of the gel because that's where the opening is. So because these wells are not labeled at this time, you just want to eyeball it and see where the well is located. It would be helpful to outline the wells before you remove the comb. So if you can see, there is a little bit of an outline. All right. So once you've loaded all of your samples, then what you need to do is take your warm hot plate and with the metal side facing towards the glass, you're going to, as quickly as possible, you're gonna want to clip it to the glass. Okay. And while you're doing this, you want to, as hard as you can, press towards the glass, keeping it as tight as possible. So during this step, you may lose some buffer, and the buffer that spills out during this step enters this bottom chamber. That's totally fine. You always want to make sure that you have extra 1x TBE buffer, so that way you don't run out and you can always replenish, and you have enough buffer to actually run your gel that contains your samples. So from here, you again set up the gel and attach the electrodes. And this is also done on the manual program, and it's going to be at constant power, but you have to change the wattage to 35 watts, and you will run this gel for 50 minutes. Once this gel is done running, then you can go and image and see if you have any bands from your experiments. So good luck. Thank you so much for watching this video.